Hi guys, and very good evening. Last class we have discussed about what is development, and we have started development and what is SQL and what is TSQL. And in MS SQL we can call TSQL. In Oracle we can call PLSQL. Programming language. Okay. In SQL we have certain level of commands where we are trying to perform creating tables and altering tables and dropping the tables and truncating the data and inserting the data and updating the data and deleting the data, and also we are going to grant the permissions and revoke the permissions, and the developers will be perform the commit and rollback and save point to view the data. Okay, mostly they will perform select statement out of this, and very important is the tables. So technically every object here call SQL in our any database management system, and you will call as a object can be table. Okay, table can be object can be table, but this is the main where your actually data in the store in the form of table, where data will be stored in the form of table only. Tables contains the rows and columns. When you open Excel sheet also, you will get rows and columns, right? And we have rows and columns in Excel sheet, and also rows and columns and rows like same table will also structure will be same in this in the form of Excel sheet only, in this form of columns and rows. Actually, what data will be stored in the database, you can create multiple objects like views and triggers and cursors. They will create multiples. Your developers will create multiple object for us, not for us, for them. For them only developers will create multiple objects. Table is a parents remaining everything like a child, where actually your data is storing in the form of table which contains the columns and rows. In any database management system, your table contains the rows and columns, and they will create developers will create views and indexes, store procedures and functions and triggers, cursors, whatever. So that is what, when you open SSMS also, when you open the SQL Server Management Studio, when you expand the databases and go to any table, open any database, under the table also, suppose I am going to any table, this is my database AdventureWorks 2019, this is my database. Under that we have some of the tables. I'm going to employee table. There will be columns and keys and constraints and triggers and index and stats is available, right, under constraints. Under the table it will be some of the sub components will be available, right, when you expand the table. So again some components in table we have, and we can create multiple, like I told you, right, regards we can create indexes, you can create columns, you can create constraints, you can create triggers, you can create stats. The very important concept, even your DBA, you must and should know about integrity constraints and set up business rules. Whenever you are creating table, they will come up with set of business rules. What is that means? Set of business rules means they can create multiple object out of that. At least you need to remember all these object tables like parents and views, index, store procedures and functions and triggers and cursors lot. So developers actually using these databases like anything, we are just maintaining the data. As a database administrator, we are maintaining the actually data, and actually work is done by developers. Basically, first let me create one table, then you can understand easily. So what we'll do, once you install your SQL server, you may some get request to create the database. So in that case, the application will create the database and to application team, and so then application team will start creating and altering, truncating, so whatever they want. So when again they will come up with the DBA, when they have facing any issues, means they are not able to access the database, and they are not able to perform the activity. While they are performing the activity, the performance impacting, then they will try to reach you DBS. So otherwise most of the time they will never reach to DBA, and they're working their own work. And as a database administrator, we are taking backups or not, and maintaining indexes, and maintaining stats, maintain and DBs. So these are all activities we will do as a database administrator. And so we will work in any we have any work in all days? No, sir. Maximum whenever you receive something goes wrong only, you'll go and work. Otherwise, if people sit in ideal in entire 8 hours, so there is no work until unless receive something goes wrong. If something is goes wrong, you can go and start working. But developers keep on, they are doing certain activities, and they are loading the data and modifying the data and creating the data, and so they keep on working with something developers. So as a database administrator, you get the request to create the database. You will get the request to create the database, and request is nothing but your ticket. So it will be form of whenever instant you will get it, right, in this form of INC, like INC 00 and 9685, like something numbers. So we are going to discuss. We have separate session in ITL process. We'll get it the work order, and you will get the task. Task will also look like you will get the ticket form of perform any activities. Without ticket, don't perform anything. Don't perform any activity in SQL Server. It is a proof. Again, I am telling, in the back end, if you are doing something in the SQL Server, you feel that no one is watching. Definitely, there is one team which is watching you. The team is nothing but GSM team, Global Security Management team. Every project there will be GSM team. GSM team is available, who is auditing you as well. As a database administrator, you think no one is auditing database team, because you are having all the permissions to create database and grant the permissions and control the permissions. That is your assumption only. But we have also get by audit by GSM team. Without ticket perform anything on the production box, definitely they will come to you, and just they will ask you, where is ticket? You have performed this certain activity, can you provide the ticket? Be careful. Without ticket, never ever work for the any can be production, it can be dev, or it can be test. Okay, you need to ask the requester, like can you please provide the ticket? Meanwhile, I can work, I can perform the certain activity. You can ask for, don't tell won't we won't work on the request without ticket. Ask politely, can you please provide the ticket, so we will work on the meanwhile. Like that, you can ask politely. Please be careful, sir. GFCM team is very, very critical. Global Security Management team. So they are completely monitor your project. Okay, whatever activities done, that activity having the ticket ID or not, they are keep on verifying. Once you got email from GSM team, and your manager also will escalate without ticket, you're working on something on production box. Okay, if your application team don't know to how to create ticket, then you can create the ticket and work on it. Without ticket, don't work on it. Anything, just create safe side the ticket as well, and get it from your manager. Okay, without ticket, don't touch, don't do any activities, don't make any changes in the production box. Okay, just to test, and they test and dev environment. They didn't audit, but production they definitely audit. Please be careful. You will get the ticket. For your understanding, who is started your career. If you are take SIM card, if you are whenever there is an issue with incoming calls and outgoing calls, what your customer care people will tell, can you please ticket, like that they will try, right, let me raise the request, let me raise the ticket. And without ticket, they didn't respond anything, right? Like that, without ticket, don't perform anything the production box. You need to ask the request to share the ticket ID, because when you keep on working the tickets, and personally they will ping Skype or Teams, right? Hey, can you please give me some access? I'm facing some issues. Like that, some application team is asked, right? First, you can get it from meanwhile, get it the ticket ID, and meanwhile that one you can work on it. So you got the request to create the database. So now what we'll do? and connect to the respective instance and right click of the databases. So now what we'll do, you connect to the respective instance and right click on the databases and go to new database. Then now try to connect the database here and database name and owner must and should be SA. So no worries about the ticket management. So we have ITL process separate session. We are going to spend complete one session. Okay, what is ITL process, what is SLA, and what is Agile methodology. So nowadays we are using Agile methodology, not like waterfalls method. What is Agile methodology and what is DevOps and how DevOps will be help in the DBA. So where we are going to discuss. No worries. Okay. Now database name. Okay, they will provide the database name in the ticket only. If you don't create your own database name over the ticket, they will mention the database name. Okay, so provide the database name, sir. Assume they are providing some test DB. They have provided test DB name to DB. To DB, make sure that always owner should be SA. Go to options and must and should your recovery model is the full only by default. Don't change anything. Make it same as it is only and click on OK. Your database is got created. Click on OK to create the database. As I already told you, right? It is inherently the features from the model database look like same. So make sure that your database owner should be SA. Most of the time SA only. So the application team is can their application user that scenario you can go and change it. But for best practices when you choose other names and but even though if they are asking here and search the login names, you get the login, then what login, that login you are making a database owner. Very rare case you will get by default. If you forgot the owner and whoever creating the database and they will be owner. If I'm creating database, right, I'm the owner of the database. If I forgot to change say is the owner, by default it will get it my name. But make sure must and should make sure the database should be run on the SA only. Once I create the database, now I can grant the permission to application team. Now they will start their own work, and so what exactly they will create the tables and they will insert the data and they will update the data and they will delete the data. Let me create one table in this database. Suppose I'm creating one table in the test DB. Create table. I'm selecting employee table, employee ID. Employee ID must and should it will be varchar, which will be it is in interior. These are all data types. So what kind of data I need to insert? This is my column. Column is the my employee ID. Okay. What kind of data I need to insert and this is the integer value and character value and float value and W value. So we have a lot of data types in the all the database management system. Okay, integer means int value, and next you can go for employee name. You can mention varchar. You need to mention some values. 20 I'm mentioning. There are two data types when you go for characters. Here varchar I have mentioned, right. There are two types and one is char and another one is varchar. So char means it is fixed value. Whatever the value you are giving here, right? Okay, assume I am giving 20 value. If I am specifying the char, I am specifying my name. Suppose my name is Sandeep Raj. Almost 15 characters, right? But the remaining 5 characters will be available. It will be available. It won't release the space. It holds the 20 characters when you go for the char. But when you go for varchar, okay, whatever the characters you are trying to insert, right, the remaining space will be released. But here in char it won't release. It hold the entire 20 character space in char. Most of the time we'll use varchar only. So that is not fixed, right? It is not fixed length. Whenever whatever the data you are trying to insert if the data is nothing, not having that much characters, length will be released in this space, right? That case you are using varchar, and this is what varchar, and also lot many can mention the salary also. You can mention lot many columns you can mention in one table. Salary, this is generic base table. Okay, just execute it. Table got created, right? When you expand the tables, it's already created, right? Database. But this is generic table. But there are lot many parameters. What lot many parameters means? One of the parameters very important, integrity constraints. And what is that integrity constraints? Is nothing but set of business rules. Okay, when you are going to create the table, will follow the certain standard, nothing but set of business rule we can follow. And what is set of business rules means? For example, take your bank account, and take your employee, and take your bank account, and take your employee, and take your credit card, and take your insurance, like health, like it is a health insurance. It can something, right? Whenever whatever just inform, and every there will be some uniqueness, right? Suppose your employee ID should be unique, and your account number should be unique, and your insurance should be unique, and your credit card number should be unique. So see, whenever I am designing a table, whenever your developer start designing the table, there will be some set of business rules whenever they are creating structure of the table. When starting creating structure, there will be some business rules. What business rules means? That is not null. That is that is nothing but not null, and primary key, and foreign key, and unique key, and checkpoint, and check, and there are five rules will be available. This we can call SQL constraints. And the constraints very important concept. Even your DBA, you must and should know about the this is six concept, because this concept will help you in the index part. Index is the one of the major tuning for a DBA. If you are understanding this concept, index is somewhat you can understand. When the default index will be created, when you are creating the integrity constraints, some indexes also create in the background, in the backend. It is a very important concept. As a database administrator, you must and should know the table. So whenever creating the table structure, so developers we never do all these activities. We should know about this. Why we are discussing all this means knowledge, what exactly developers certain. And I'm not telling that you will be all their stuff. I'm not telling that you will do all this, no, but this concept will help you lots when you start tuning. And we need to start during the indexes. So in this case, integrity constraint will you help you lot. So that is the main purpose I'm going to highlight this concept, this constraints. Whenever you are creating table, and one of the developers will start the setting the integrity constraints, sir. When you are keep null, suppose developers when keep the tables, right, they will keep not null. And for employee ID means they keep for employee ID means your employee ID must and should need to pass. When you not pass, when you pass the null, if you forgot whenever you are inserting the data, and whenever you are inserting the data, if you won't allow the insert the data, it will it won't allow without employee. Suppose anyone can recruit the employee, and without employee we cannot recruit, right? Anyone knows, right? Means your employee ID should not be null. It will allow the duplicate values. And ID is the not null, and name you can mention duplicate name. Not null means it won't allow the null values, but it will allow the duplicate values. But it will not allow the null values, and it will allow the duplicate values. It will allow the duplicate values means your employee ID can be duplicate, but your employee ID can be duplicate, but your employees should not be null value. When you passing these values, we never employees should be never pass the duplicate, right? Suppose Sandeep Raj, how many Sandeep Raj will be available? How many Venkats are available? Throughout global, there is so many employees, right? Sandeep Raj and Venkats. So little names can be duplicate, but must and should mandatory when you're trying to insert the employee ID. It is not duplicate, not null. You should pass the name that can be duplicate. No need to worry. So that is what not null. If you can pass employee ID, not null, and you can pass name is the duplicate, no worries. Okay, when you go for a unique queue, it is quite opposite. When you go for a unique queue, when you go for a unique queue, quite opposite, it will allow the null values, but it won't allow the duplicate values. Not null means it will allow the null values. It won't not null means it won't allow the null values, and it will allow the duplicates, right? Unique key means it will allow the null values, but it won't allow the duplicate values. Quite opposite. That is your unique key constraint. So when you go for the primary key, it is very important. When you create the primary key, it won't allow the null values, it won't allow the duplicate values, and every table you will get the primary key means it won't allow the null values, it will won't allow the duplicate values, means your id should be unique like employee id, department id, and sales id, and customer id, and credit card number, and your insurance id. It should not be null, it should not be duplicate, it should be unique. So that is how your primary key always will keep for the ids. Most of the times, okay, primary key means it won't allow the null values, it won't allow the duplicate values. So whenever they are creating table and so set up business rules, they we are allowing here means my employee id should not be null, must and should not be duplicate, it should be unique. That is how you will make sure whenever you are create, and you will add the primary key. And now foreign key means whenever you are creating primary keys, right? Means whenever you creating primary keys, and means whenever you creating primary keys, it won't allow the duplicate values, right? And it will not won't allow the null values, making some relationship. And the primary key acting as a like a parent, and foreign keys act as a child. Okay, so make sure the relationship between the two tables. If I'm creating a table of 1,000 columns, we never encourage such kind of sql to having 1,000 columns, 2,000 columns in one table. It will impact anything. What we'll do, and what is the primary data details? Suppose employee id is the my primary employee id, and employee name, and employee salary, and date of joining, and employee id will should be part of one table. And my address, street 1 and street 2, and door number, and state and country and region, and that is second table. Now I am dividing the two tables. I am dividing the tables. Multiple tables are is nothing but normalization. When you go for development, all this very important for normalization. They will follow the normalization, and normalization 1, and normalization 2, and normalization 3, and by boycott normalization, different terminology they will use developers, and they are going to divide into the pieces, and they will make piece, and they will make a primary key with acting as and child, they will make a foreign key, means it will be having some relationship. And primary is your parent, and foreign keyword to make the relationship between the two tables. And foreign key also act as a like child tables, which is making the relationship. So that is how your developers is doing all this stuff. Microsoft is providing some sample database for user. You are no need to create any databases, no need to create any tables. Microsoft is giving some Suppose when you go for search in Google, Microsoft sample databases, go to AdventureWorks sample databases, and here you will get it. Suppose you want to AdventureWorks 2019, you can go and download this backup file, and you can restore in the your SQL server. whatever tables is available, you can restore for the practice purpose. You no need to create any tables. You can get it from here. This is the Microsoft block. No need to worry. You can download the backup file and you can restore it. When I restore 2019 Adventure Work 2019 backup, I will get it some of the tables inside. Okay, like person dot business entity and person dot business entity contact. Okay, see Microsoft dividing the tables, right? Address is the making one and contact is the making one, and base table is the entity. Base table means parent table. So how you going to divide means foreign key and primary key. How is going to divide means primary key and foreign key. Foreign key will make the relationship with the primary key. So maximum as part of best practices, when you referring how many columns you can create in the one table means 1000, but whenever create 1000 tables as for the best practices, you will divide the table in the form of piece, like address is one table and the original data will be one table, and will make the relationship between the two tables by using primary key and foreign key. That is what about the foreign key and primary key. No, that is what foreign key and primary key and not null and unique, and another one is the check. Check is there whenever you want to open bank account, right? So suppose when you want to open bank account, they will ask you some minimum balance, right? That can be 100 rupees, that can be 1000 rupees, that can be 5000 rupees. In Indian rupees, you can go for USA also, some countries. If you want to open private bank account, you need deposit some minimum amount, right? The check the values should be greater than, suppose your minimum balance 1000 rupees, and check the values should be greater than 1000 equal to, and they will make like this, and the how we are creating the database like base tables, and they will follow the standards whenever you are designing the tables. There are lot many things still. All that headache will be done by developers. What exactly developers are doing all the stuffs. And once you create the table, and I have created table, right? What data is available in the data? Every I told you, right? Every query ends with go. Suppose if I want to read the data, go to new query and write the comments, select star from EMP. We get it right, some comment, some data you are getting, right? If I'm not inserting anything, this is my employee table. I want to see the data is currently, I don't have any currently data, right? If you want to insert the data, and what developers will do, right? Start inserting data. Always your characters must and should single quotes, single line of the comments where you are calling queries will place in the programmatic. Store procedure is also nothing but change. They will keep on block the pieces, and when you want to see data here, what exactly they are doing, right? This is nothing but create store procedure means procedure name, and they will passing some parameters also, and they have performing select statement, and they are performing one more select statement, and so in the store procedure you keep on multiple statement in the piece of in a block. Suppose when I go to tables, when I go to store procedures, we are going the store procedure, and they will use the select, the multiple select statement, and begin and if condition, and while condition, and loop condition. They will use multiple statements, right? Multiple conditions you can write. There will be complex store procedure. Now at least we are able to see only thousands of lines here, but when you go for real world, when you start analyzing, then what came to know what exactly that this SP is doing. Okay, someone is will come to you, ask you, hey, I'm running this store procedure, it is impacting my performance like anything. Then you need to start investigated about what exactly that SP is doing and how to troubleshoot. So that's what we are going to discuss in troubleshoot session. That is the queries troubleshoot. So for example, I want to do something. They may ask you one question, and what is the difference between store procedure and function? function should return a value. Function should at least one value, but SP may or may not give the value. Okay. Someone is asking what is both are similar, but only the major challenges. Function should be return the value, but store procedure may or may not return the value. It may or not return the value. No worry, but function should be return you the value. So that is the just one line word you need to remember, and what is DBA is doing, and what is developers are doing. Okay, that's what developer are doing such kind of activities in our database, and we are just maintaining data. So someone may also you, and we need to develop a code. But if you know the development, if market is good, your profile is good profile, and DBA come developer, the very interesting concept. That's what about development. Now very interesting concept we are going to discuss, recovery models. It is the first concept. Now you can treat the here onwards. We are going to the concept wise in the SQL Server database administrator part. If I am changing the database recovery model, what is happening in the DB level, and what recovery model first of all, what is the recovery model first of all, how many types of recovery models available. If I'm switching the recovery models from the full to bulk, and bulk to simple, sample to full, and full to sample, switching the recovery models very important. And so theory is very important, practical very easy. So the first concept we are going to start as a database administrator, very important concept. Okay, whatever we are discussing, recovery models and backups and restore and recovery models, the concept, these three concept very important. On this three concept interconnection link, and there is dependent, not the independent. So recovery model, bulk, backups and store, recovery models, backups, and very crucial database as a database administrator. First, what is the recovery model, and first of all, what is recovery model? A recovery model is the database property, and first of all, the first point, recovery model is the one of the database property. So we have lot many properties, right? When you go for a database, when you go for a database property, we have lot many, right? Okay, so when you go for database and go to properties, we have lot many features, right? Go to files, here the DB owner is there, and database name, and when you go for options, collation and recovery model, the compatibility level, and containment type. Okay, here recovery model also is available. Recovery model is the one of the database property. Again, we have lot many properties in the database level. When you go for, when I go for that, it can do, we have lot many properties in the database level. When you go for what it can be do, if I can change recovery model. Okay, what exactly it will do in a database level? Majorly it is going to do the two things. If I change the recovery models, majorly it is going to do two things, means how long I need to keep the my transaction log changes in the database. That is the one property. If I'm changing the recovery model, majorly it is going to do two things, means how long I need to keep the my transaction logs changes in the database. That is the first property. I need to keep changes in the log file, and need changes how long I need to keep the log changes in my database. That is deciding by the recovery model. What is deciding by recovery model? How long I need to keep my transaction log changes in the database. So this is the first property. And one more property, what kind of backup I can perform in the database. The two properties majorly handled by the recovery model. So how long I need to keep the changes in the database, and what kind of backups I can perform in the database. These two major properties handled by the recovery models, and these are our two properties, and will discuss. So now SQL Server, we have three recovery models, and simple and full and bulk log recovery models. And we have three recovery models: simple recovery model, and full recovery model, and bulk log recovery model. So in SQL Server we have three. So when I keep my database in simple recovery model, what will happen? And when I keep my database into full recovery model, what will happen? And when you keep my database into bulk log recovery model, what will happen? So that is what, sir. First, we are going to discuss what is simple and what is full, what is bulk log. Then you can understand for my database simple recovery model. If my database in simple recovery model, what exactly databases behaving internally? If my database is in full recovery model, how my database behaving internally? So if my database in bulk log, how my database having internally? So when I go for bulk log recovery model, and when I go for bulk log recovery model, when I keep my database in bulk log recovery model, what exactly my database behaving internally? That's what our understanding should be. So I told you, right, just 2 minutes. We can switch recovery model mostly 90 and 99%. We never switch the recovery model. But even though we must and should know recovery models, recovery model is the database property which will decide the how long I need to keep my database transaction logs in the DB, and what kind of backups I can perform in the database. These two properties will be handled by the recovery models. Now first we have three types of recovery models, and let me discuss about first recovery model, simple recovery model. Okay. And first of all, what is simple recovery model? If my database in simple recovery model, what exactly will happen in the DB level? When you my database in simple recovery model, I already told you, right? Checkpoint. Checkpoint triggers internally. Every database internally trigger the checkpoint to plus the changes, right? Log files divided into two positions. One is inactive position and one is active position. Already I told you, right? We have separate session on log file. So I cannot explain you log file complete minutes. We are going to spend around some hours minimum. We need to spend some hours, hours in log file. So lot much we need to discuss about, and I'm taking the some one piece to discuss today just for understand this concept. We have separate sessions again, and I will show you practical everything. Log file contains the active position and inactive position. What is active means current running transaction called active position, and the transaction has been completed before moving the data for log file to MDF file. SQL is moving the data from the log file to MDF. It will place one copy and it will move the data from safer side. What Microsoft is doing for move the data from log file to MDF, SQL server will place one copy in the inactive position, and the SQL server will place one copy in inactive position. Try to understand the logic. Okay. Before we move the data from log file to MDF, SQL server place one copy in the inactive position. Then it will move to the MDF file. That is what we need to understand as of now. Active position means current running transactions. Current running transaction are our part of active. Okay. Before it we move the data, once the transaction is completed, once is committed a SQL server, that will move to the MDF file. When moving the MDF file, it will place one copy of inactive position for safer side. Understand, right? What is active and what is inactive. So whatever the modification you are performing, that will be available in the buffer, that will be available in the log file, and means you need to maintain the durability, right? Why Microsoft moving the data to the LDF2 and satisfy the walls, right? And variety logs means every change whatever you are performing, that should be make entry in the log file to maintain, and try to make simple way understand the clearly, because we are going to discuss deeper in advanced level. Now it will make little bit confused because there is not much documented. I can show you in Microsoft. What is main internal is happening means, assume you are performing insert operations and another person is performing update statement, and another person is performing delete statement. Once your transaction is done, Once your transaction is completed, it will move to the MDF file. When your checkpoint triggers, it will move to the MDF file because your transaction is committed, right? Before it will move to the MDF, it will place one copy of inactive position and it will move to the MDF file. There are two more transactions still is running, right? And that is still not reflecting to the MDF file because still transaction is running, right? Whenever checkpoint triggers and when your transaction is completed, it will move the data to the MDF file. Before it move, and it will place one copy the inactive position, and that mechanism designed by Microsoft internally to secure our data. Again, how you are securing your data in case if any disaster recovery happen. Okay, that's what Microsoft intention. Multiple copies Microsoft keep on maintaining. Okay, no worries, we are not inserting any duplicate data into the database, and that will take by Microsoft. I can give some simple answer. Assume you are having database, and that log file contains active position, and you are trying to moving the data, and assume checkpoint trigger, and once checkpoint is decided to move the data, before it is moving databases, before it is moving to the MDF, in case database is corrupted. So that what Microsoft is doing, right? Before you move the data, let's keep data is in inactive position, and let's move the data to the MDF file. Even crash also, no worries, I'm having the data right in the inactive position. That's what Microsoft before move the data, and safer side they keep one one file to the inactive position. After that they will move the data from LDF to MDF. If something happen or my database is corrupted, you are having backup, right? I can recover the data because my data is available in inactive position, right? That's what I told you. And backups and restores and recovery models are dependent. Somewhere it is dependent on concept wise. But when you go for backup, backend, and there are dependents. And when you go for restoring, it will help you a lot. And because when you restoring the database, uh, when you restoring the backup file contains the active one, when you're restoring the Microsoft will know all the concept in the backend. That is how we need to understand should be changed here. So before it moves the data, it will place one copy and inactive position, and it start moving the data to the MDF file. Something happen, no worries. I'm having data in inactive position, right? Believe me or not believe me, this is what technical. So what Microsoft point of views and secure the data, and how much you are securing the data. Finally, before I move to the MDF file, multiple security policies Microsoft, but unfortunately they are not really documented. You need to trust it. That's it. For your understanding, I'm telling from backup file, and what data is available in the backup. That is it. From our understanding, what exactly the first point I told you, right? How long I need to keep that logs changes in the database for understand stronger. You need to understanding flow, what is active and what is inactive, and that's when you active will become inactive again, and when inactive become again. We have one more, but we need to hold for a while. Now in the while now we understand log file, and let me give all the points. Simple recovery model, and whenever the checkpoint is triggers, let me give you on all the points in simple recovery model. When checkpoint triggers, what will happen in simple recovery model? Whenever checkpoint trigger in simple recovery model, it will try to get the inactive portion, it will move the data to the file, it will move the data to the MDF file, and it will move the data to the MDF file, and it will truncate the data in the inactive, means it will arrange the inactive portion complete. Okay, suppose whenever checkpoint triggers to inactive portion will be truncated, it will move the data to the MDF file. Once it is moved to the once it is complete, it will run in simple recovery model. You cannot perform. First of all, when you go for simple recovery model, and inactive portion of the T-log truncated at the checkpoint. Whenever checkpoint will trigger, right? And whatever the inactive portion data will be available after T-log backup. It will move to the T-log back. It will move to the inactive portion to MDF file. In simple recovery model, you cannot performing transaction log backups, and you cannot recover the data and find of up to point of failover. And what is backups we are going to discuss in next coming sessions. And in simple recovery models, transaction log backup it is not possible. Whenever checkpoint triggers, it will truncate the inactive position. And here we can perform the transaction log backup. And it does not support and HA and disaster. And in simple recovery models, you cannot configure high availability and you cannot configure disaster recovery like lock shipping, mirroring, and always on high availability, and replication is not high availability, and replication not disaster recovery. It is just a feature in SQL Server. In simple recovery model, you cannot configure any high availability, and you cannot configure any disaster recovery solutions. It's not compatible. Okay, these are four importance of point in your simple recovery model. You need to by head. In full recovery model, whenever a checkpoint triggers, it will want to trigger the inactive portions. Okay, whenever a checkpoint triggers in full recovery model, it won't triggers the inactive portion. It will just to move the data from log file to MDF file. It will want to truncate the inactive portions. Now, in one interesting point, truncate the inactive position, we need to configure transaction log backups. If you forgot to configure transaction log backups, your log backup will grow like anything. When you're making your database into full recovery model, you must and should configure the log backups. If you are not configuring the log backups, your inactive position will keep on growing. It will make your log file to full, and we can recover up to the data to the point of failover in full recovery model. So whenever checkpoint triggers, it will won't truncate the inactive position. To truncate the inactive position, we need to configure the TLAG backups. Whenever recover up to the point of failover, all high availabilities and disaster recovery solutions, and you can compatible with all C and DR solutions in the full recovery model. And now bulk log recovery model is very important. We need to almost bulk log recovery model and bulk log recovery model and full recovery model is almost similar. Okay, almost what is the difference scenario, and we can recover may or may not the what is the difference between full recovery model and bulk log recovery model means whenever I recover may or may not to point of failover. This is the very simple. So again I tell you full recovery model and your bulk log recovery model almost similar. Why then Microsoft came up with bulk log recovery models? That is what important. And try to understand logic. Very important. Now see, I'm inserting the records around some billions, like 10 billions of record. I'm doing the database, and so 10 billion records like bulk insert and bulk copy and select into and SSIS DTX insert with select. So whenever you're performing such commands, okay sir, basically whenever prefer the bulk log recovery model. Again I am telling basically we never prefer the bulk log recovery model because there will be one major drawback. I can explain that. Okay, but in case your application team is coming to DBA people, I'm asking, hey, I'm trying to insert some database. Now, what and how many? Because you are trying to insert how much of data you are trying to insert. Okay, we never change. Whenever your application team is coming to you and asking, and they are performing my transaction getting delay. So basically, configuration I'm not telling. You need to do this, but make you note towards our configuration means how many cores of how much memory you can, and what is your storage type, whether your SSD, and don't blindly prefer whenever your application is coming to you and I'm performing bulk log operations. Can you please help me to improve the performance? So blindly you never suggest this bulk log recovery model, because there is one major drawback when you performing the bulk log recovery model. If something happen, okay, entire your data loss will happen. Whenever your recovery model is bulk log recovery, bulk log, and you are using any one of this command, then SQL will treat it is a bulk log transaction. Now you get a better idea. You get better idea. Whenever your database in bulk log recovery model, when you are performing such commands like bulk copy and select into and SSIS and DTX and insert with select statements, when you are using such commands, your SQL server assumes you are performing bulk log transaction. Your data storage will be something different. Makes sense, right? First point is clear. Whenever my database and I'm performing and I have trigger such kind of and SQL server work differently, and when you compare with the regular, what different, that what I'm going to discuss. Now assume my database bulk log recovery model. I started any one of this command, and what is happening in backend, that is what very important. When you go for any blogs also in Google, you can go and search any blog also what is bulk log recovery model. When you search Google in what is bulk log recovery model, everyone is telling minimally log when you going for bulk log recovery model. Okay, minimally log somewhere, and you will get minimally log. All bulk operations are minimally logged, and all bulk operations are minimally. What is minimally means? The advantage of using bulk log recovery model is that your transaction log will not get the large. You are doing large bulk log operations, and it is still the advantage of using the bulk log recovery model is that your transaction log will not get that large. If you're doing large bulk operations, that means minimally log. And what is means terminology minimally log? Now let's start. When you are performing bulk operations on my database in bulk log recovery model, and I'm performing operations like bulk copy and select into and SSIS and DTX insert with the select statement. When you trigger such commands on my database, what is means by minimally log means whatever the extents that are affected by the transaction and will be make entry in the BCM page, not in log file. Log file is not maintaining your data. Whatever the changes your performance, obviously I told you, right, every change whatever you made, that you need to make entry in the log file. But here it is not making any entry in the log file. Where it is maintained, you remember in the page explanation, right? I told you already BCM page. I will explain you in recovery model. I told you, right? BCM page, bulk change map, whatever extent that has been affected by this transaction, all the extents information will be logged in the BCM page, not in the transaction log. Your transaction log is not maintaining any changes. Who is maintaining our changes? Your BCM page. If BCM page is maintaining the changes, that is why we are calling as a minimally log. You are not maintaining any log information in the log file. Where you are maintaining in the separate page where Microsoft is maintaining, that is nothing but your BCM page. BCM page will track the information about the extents that has been affected by the bulk operations. Assume this is my extent, and it contains 8 pages. Contain the 8 pages. Okay. The how it is started inserting the data and modifying the data, the basically will be called 30 pages. You need to call 30 pages. So as this extent is affected by the bulk operations, this extents information will be locked in the BCM page. And suppose extent 1 and extent 2 and extent 10 and extent 15 and extent 16. This is my extent tracking in BCM page, not data, information. That is what we are telling, and that is suggestion. We are providing the developers never prefer switching the recovery models, because also assume we started bulk operation. Mostly take 2 hours and start the transaction when you were completed 1 hour, 2 hours, and 2 hours, 2 seconds, and server is scratched. Whatever you perform in 2 hours, it will be lost because there will be no data is log file, right? There is no data in the log file. Where data is residing in the buffer, and how you know BCM page, and they may the data loss. If something happen in the middle when you are performing bulk operations, definitely there will be data loss. Means complete yourself will be data loss. You need to start from starting only, because I don't have any log file. I'm explaining mechanism how internally it is performing and what is minimally log. It will improve, but it is also if you're agreeing with the danger, I can switch the recovery model. Very simple. Whatever discuss now 1 hour, I can go by practical. Whatever I can discuss 1 hour, I can go practical. Whatever discuss in 1 hour, I can go for by practical. So suppose when I check, so when I go to database properties, what is my database recovery models? When you go for option, my recovery model is the full rate. What is my recovery model? See the my recovery model. We have simple catalog, simple recovery model, and a full recovery model, bulk log recovery model, and that is this database. And not the database contains complete information, that contains the as well. And whenever you want to change whenever you need to switch the database recovery model, simple, you can go and switch on your recovery model, full or bulk log or simple, you can switch on. And you have two methods you can follow, and you can use this query as well. When you want to switch recovery model, use master and go alter database adventure work 2019 set recovery model simple, and select name recovery model, and it will switch database. It will help you. When I execute this query, and it is changed to simple. Now I have seen, right, my database in full recovery model. You go and refresh. Not here. You need to select. When you run this query, and previous it will be in full recovery model. It is changed to simple recovery model. This is how you can run this query, and you will get it. My database into full to simple. Okay. If you want to change recovery model, alter database name, and set recovery model, and set recovery to full here. If you want to change full, you can set recovery model to full. Sir, everyone knows only this three recovery models only. There is one hidden recovery model, that is pseudo recovery model. Basically, either how to change the recovery model, either either from alter statement, and we can change recovery model directly from the command line, and you can change the graphical user interface. If you want to switch the recovery model, okay, click on the database and go to properties and choose the options, and recovery models what you want. You can switch the recovery model when you are switching full to bulk log. When you are switching from the full to bulk log recovery model, once you switch from the full to recovery model, immediately a recovery model switching, and when you are switching full to bulk log recovery model, immediately initiate the log backup, and perform the whatever bulk operations. Immediately you can perform, and immediately switch back to the full recovery model, and again you can insert the transaction log backup while switching the full to bulk log recovery model. Okay. And when you are switching simple to full recovery model, insert the full or differential backup, and once you switch from the simple to full recovery model, it is not fully recovery model, right? This partially means it is a pseudo recovery model. Means when you take full backup or differential backup to make your database completely recovery model, That is what switching from the simple to full recovery model. That is not completely your full recovery model. It is a full pseudo full recovery model. It is hidden. So where you can find Microsoft also anywhere mentioning, you can call it as pseudo full recovery model. Make that complete your full recover model and take full backup and take differential backup and once you configure simple to full, you need to take transaction log backups when you're switching from full to bulk log. Once you configure simple to full, you need to take key log backups. Okay. When you're switching from full or bulk to bulk log to simple recovery model, disable the transaction log backups and ensure you need to configure the full backup. First, when you switching full or bulk log to simple, you need to disable the transaction log backup and ensure there will be take full backup and how to configure log backups, what is log backups, yet to discuss all this and that is what we need to discuss today in recovery models and how to switch the recovery models. Everybody clear, right? Full to bulk log and simple to full and full or bulk log to simple. And when you go for full and bulk log, initiate log backup and perform bulk operations and immediately switch to full recovery model. And again you can initiate full recovery. Again you can initiate transaction log backup and simple to full means initiate full backup or differential backup and you can schedule transaction log backup and when you switching simple to full, it is not fully recovery model, right? It is called partially it is a recovery model, right? That is like a pseudo recovery model. When you are switching simple to fill, it is going to pseudo recovery model. After take full or a differential backup, it is come to full recovery model. And you need to schedule the T-log backups while changing the simple to full recovery model. And full or bulk to simple, you need to disable all the transaction log backups and to ensure there will be full backup when you are switching full or bulk log to simple. That is what today we need to discuss about recovery models. Tomorrow you can come up with another concept. Thanks for everyone.